What's up, world-renowned family? Welcome to the 2-6. I am your host, Neil Oates Jr., and I have a very special friend and guest, Mr. Brian Sharpe of Sharpe Properties, Mr. Everything. He was born and raised in Miami. He is currently the 2018 president of Miami Commercial and holds a general contractor's license, holds probably a pilot's license. I think he's an astronaut in his spare time. What's up, Mr. Sharpe? How are you today, sir?
I'm good. How you doing, Neil? Thanks for having me.
An absolute pleasure. So let's just jump right in. We were supposed to do this earlier today, but you said, I know that you share an office with your dad, right? And that was perfect for me because you said you could probably do it right now, but you might hear your dad through the wall. So just talk about, being a part of a family business and the good, the pros and the cons of that.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny you mentioned that I might have a pilot's license. I do not, but my father does. He got that when he was younger. But I do have the broker's license, the contractor's license. I'm an appraiser trainee and a home inspector. So I do hold a few. And it'll all intermingle as we discuss. But as you're saying with the family, I work in a family business. My grandfather started it with my father. We own and manage commercial properties, and basically I've been doing that. I'm third generation with my brother as well. So I have the office next to my brother. Next to my father, and my father's office is next to my brother. The hurdles and successes of being in a family business is you have someone you can rely on that when you need something done or have any questions, but you also know that the work has to get done one way or another, whether it be staying up late. You got to put in the time. If you don't, no one else will. So it's up to you, my father, or my brother, and other people have the ability to just say, I'm sorry, I can't deal with it, and walk out the door, whereas it falls on one of our shoulders or all of our shoulders.
Usually we're just coming off of Thanksgiving, right? And I know you're a family man, great father, husband, but what is it like when you're working with them all the time? Does the holidays change, or is it just like another day in the office for you?
My wife gets a little upset sometimes when my father brings work home. And it's funny because on Saturdays, sometimes the phone will ring around 8:30 in the morning and she'll be like, oh, it's your father, isn't it? Yes, it's not fun, but it's a part of life. It's accepted, understood. And while she says it, she knows that it's fine, and she just she understands it. She doesn't mean anything bad by it, but we got to be there for each other. We do separate, so a lot of times, let's say if it's a family event, we'll discuss something at the beginning of it and then table it and move on and enjoy our family time. We still do family vacations. We actually did an Alaskan cruise where we took all of my family, all of my brother's family, and we were all there. And we did talk a little business, and we are in real estate. So as we're walking around in Alaska, we're like saying, oh, this is interesting how they do construction here. And my mind, it's always working, especially with that contractor mindset, trying to
Now, Brian, did everyone make it back from the cruise? That's what we want to know.
Everyone made it back. No one got picked up by any eagles out there or fell in any snowbanks, and we're all good and happy.
Here, now you talked about your dad and your grandfather starting the business, but your grandfather didn't really start in real estate. So just give us a backstory of him and what he did, where he's from, and just sort of like his, I guess, leapfrog from place to place and what impact that's had on you.
You got it. My grandfather, actually, he grew up in Lithuania. My grandmother, she was born in Brooklyn. Her mother died at childbirth, and her father couldn't care for her, put her in an orphanage. So she was there until he could come back and care for her. They met in New York City. They were living there, lived in Brooklyn. And when my father was 1 year old in Brooklyn, other relatives that had a department store in Cuba called Los Precios Fijos, they told him basically, look, come to Cuba, run the business with us and everything. So my grandfather picked up with a 1 year old. My father was the firstborn. They went to Cuba. My grandfather owned a photo mat in a Nacional Hotel, I think it was, in Cuba, which was right on the Malecon. He also ran a whole department store. They lived there for about 15, 16 years. Yeah, as everyone kind of knows what occurred, somebody named Fidel came into power, and they basically they went. My family was American citizens, so Castro didn't want anyone suing that kind of thing. My grandfather had to smuggle his uncle, who was the main owner of the department store, out of Cuba, while the government was trying to search them out. They got out with their lives. They didn't have anything else. Basically came to the U.S. with nothing but tax write-offs for about 7 or 8 years. He rebuilt based on connections with friends who helped him get into some business. Basically, he lived, oddly enough, a mile from where I live now initially when they came from Cuba, then moved to Miami Beach after a time and bought a house fully furnished. And how you mentioned family is important to me. I still have the dining room table from that house that he bought fully furnished as my dining room table. It's been refinished though. Okay.
Just let me interject right there.
Yeah.
So learning from that, from
Mm.
just seeing what your dad and your grandfather did and the sacrifice he made for family, and then the decision, because I think that's one of the things that me being born here in the United States, I don't have an appreciation for, and all of my family being born here.
Right.
What have you picked up from that, and what have you learned from that? First, as a man, but then as a business owner.
The biggest thing that I kind of lived my life by, which came out of, I think, that storyline of my life, is something that's been taught to me by from my father growing up. That the one thing that cannot be taken from you is your education. So if you gain that knowledge, you can always rebuild. My grandfather had a great life in Cuba with his family, and they lost everything. Came to the States, they were able to rebuild. Why? Because he had the knowledge, he had the education, he had the intelligence in order to go out and get it himself. Um, when he came here, one of the businesses he did was telemarketing, and he sold miniature refrigerators. How did he? He was employee of the month for 4 or 5 months in a row. Why? He ordered phone books from other counties and made those cold calls that nobody else in his area did. It's you have to go that above and beyond, and then that's kind of been instilled in me growing up is never give up, always keep pushing, learn as much as you can, which is why I have those licenses in order to push it. So okay, and the quick one went from the selling mini refrigerators. Then we had a friend that my father had met from Italy in Modena, which is where the Ferrari factory is, which has no connection to the story other than that's where they're from. But they sold tile. So our family was one of the first two importers of Italian tile into the United States. So we were used to be called Delta Tile. And then basically we were distributors of that. From there, my grandfather had the wherewithal to get into real estate, which I strongly agree is a great business. Basically, he bought his first building called the Cuban Shopping Center. And it's about 7 blocks from Orange Bowl, the baseball stadium, whatever you want to call it now. And then we still have that building to this day, and just keep the business going and growing.
From all of that, so talking about your grandfather, talking about your dad, and us knowing that you're in the family business now, seeing what your grandfather and your dad have done right, let me ask you, Mr. Sharpe, sir, what are some of the things that you think that you've done right up to this point in your life?
I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm glad I've done. Obviously education, going to college, taking other classes, becoming a realtor, getting in the real estate world, gaining as much knowledge as I can. I met an amazing woman, my wife.
Okay. I thought that was going to be the first thing.
Oh, well, I kind of wanted to go with the storyline, but now I want to tell you this one. No, my wife, Leslie, she's amazing. She actually, oddly enough, is a real estate attorney. And it's funny because she used to be with a firm, then she went in-house, and now she's in with another company. And our worlds are closer than they ever have been in our business world because she has to deal with landlord-tenant issues. And we'll occasionally, pick each other's brains on things. And then she gave me and her 2 wonderful boys, Preston and Harrison, which are amazing kids.
Those are the things that you've done right now. We did debrief about this before the call, and I was going to say, is it okay? Because I like to ask for people's permission and then do the exact opposite anyway. So we're going to venture into that part where most people don't want to go, but since this is 26 minutes of unedited, uncut, just realness.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I can't.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah, you know where we're going. What are some of the things that maybe you've made missteps so that you didn't get right, and then what have you learned from those time periods?
As growing up, sometimes when we're younger, we think we know best. Times change, technology's better, we could do things differently. When I was working with my father, he always used to say, put a sign on the building. First thing, if we have a vacancy, put it up there, put that for rent sign, people see it. I'm like, oh no, we have the internet, we advertise there, it's better. So I try to focus on that, but then sometimes you put that sign up and then the next day you get the phone call. It's old school is just as good as new school. You cannot forget the past and keep using it. You just have to keep moving forward and grow everything. You can't just rely on what's new and fancy and wonderful. You can't put all your eggs in Instagram. You gotta also deal with, online classifieds or other list services. You always have to keep growing.
Fantastic. So that leads us right into the next question. Because as I mentioned, you are the 2018 president of Miami Commercial. So what is one of the biggest challenges, not just this year, but just in your leadership experience so far? What's one of the biggest challenges that you've experienced? And then how have you overcome that? Or if you're currently going through that, how are you overcoming that challenge?
I had served on the board for a few years prior to becoming president, and I love being a part of the association and getting my voice heard. When I was on the board, the Miami Commercial used to be called RCA, Realtors Commercial Alliance. When I was on the board, I honestly, for the first 2 years, I don't even think I recalled what RCA meant and stood for. And it was always one of the things that stuck out of my head. So when I became the vice president, I already warned Paul, who is the head for the commercial at the Miami Association, say, look, I want this to happen. It's going to happen in my year. So I kind of got, I laid the groundwork. So then when we had our retreat where we're doing the planning and everything for the upcoming year, my first thing as president, I come out there and I say, okay, I want to change the name of Miami Commercial. Who's on with me? I wanted to get everyone on board. I wanted everyone to be a part of it. And I think one person questioned it only to be devil's advocate. Everyone else was like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's go for it. So it's a matter of just trying to make sure the people you're relying on are there with you. You always see that okay. And even in the Miami Commercial, you may be the leader of it, but you're not really, it's the group effort. But that little cartoon where you see what the difference is between a leader and a boss, the leader is the one who's helping pull the line and get everything across, and the boss is the one who's sitting in the chair while everyone's pulling him. I want to be the leader. It's a team effort whenever you're in that type of a situation. So it's getting everyone on board, making sure everyone's voice is heard. And sometimes you're wrong. If you're wrong, admit it, move forward, and do whatever you can.
Miami Commercial. I mean, just even proposing, something like that, it takes a little chutzpah. It takes a little bit of, we're going to say brawn. I think that's the safest way to do it. Did you run your idea in front of maybe some of your superiors or colleagues ahead of time, or did you wait for that planning conference? Because I know you ran it by Paul. Shout out to Paul, doing a fantastic job. Keep up the work, sir. But I know that you ran it by him, or you informed him. But what was your process in saying, okay, here's what we want to do?
Initially, it was before, when I was VP, telling Paul this is one thing I wanted to do so he can, speak to Teresa or anyone else who might have any concerns. It turns out Teresa had thought of this also a few years ago, but no one really wanted to push it and go with it. So, I can't take all the credit. It's the association. They do amazing things and are such a great group. I just, try to do my part. And you're talking about having the chutzpah. The way I kind of am trying to instill this in my kids also. If you don't speak up and give your concerns, nothing will ever happen. You got to give it that try. If you don't try, you already failed. So
I'm hoping that you didn't just answer my next question. But what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I ever received. Well, I already told you about education being important, and that's the one thing that my father always had told me, and I take that to heart and live that every day. That's probably the most. But the other one is kind of what my family motto or creed is, which is "It is what it is." I literally, in my front door, you walk in my house, there's a piece of art, and it says "It is what it is." In other words, life gives you what it gives you. You make the best of it, and you deal with it, and you move on, you move forward, and you make it better. My dog's name is actually Socks. Now, it's actually connected here because the way I teach people how to say in Spanish, "It is what it is," you spell out the word in English, socks, S-O-C-K-S. When you say it fast, S-O-C-K-S, it is what it is. So people will get a kick out of that one, but that's what I live my life by. Like, it is what it is.
You are a true intellectual. Oh my God. Come on, man.
No, but look, this is what it is. What happens, what comes at you, you take it, you do your best, you fix it, you break it, you put it back together, you move on. Something bad happens, it happened. You deal with it, keep going. Don't let it stop you.
So you just taught me Spanish, S-O-C-K-S.
There you go. You're not going to forget it either. It's so easy to remember.
The simplicity of that, it is freaking brilliant. Oh my God. Come on, man. All right. So you just blew my mind. Like, brain is oozing out of my ears right now. Next question, sir. Who is the most influential person in your life?
My father. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, everything I've learned from him, I'm grateful for. He still he still works at our family business, and he refers to what he works as a half day. 8 to 8.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
because I noticed that there was no hesitation in that answer at all. So you know right off that your dad is a big part of your life.
Absolutely.
Okay. If you could interview one person, dead or alive, now you've had a moment, and I'm going to stall a little bit. Hopefully you have an answer. Now, if you could interview one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
It's a tough one. I mean, there's so many people out there in history, but I mean, I would have to say, I used to want to be a politician. I worked in politics for a little bit,
Right.
And the politician I worked for did one thing wrong, and the opposition basically came at her, and she had to do federal time. Like, now, I'm happy to do what I can behind the scenes and help out, but the way I look at it is, I want to be an elected official. I don't want to be a politician. Those days don't exist right now. If they do in the future, so be it. I'll deal with it then. Until that time, I would have to say something like George Washington, like creating the United States and along with his team and his people, but hearing like how you can have the chutzpah in order to go against Europe and everything and form this union and try to create something from nothing and represent yourself and become a group. And I mean, it's amazing things that people do in history.
Absolutely is, sir. All right. Now we're going to talk to younger Brian. What would you tell your 10-year younger self?
My 10-year younger self. I would say you're going to have a kid in a year. But basically, just it's the same kind of thing. Don't ever give up. Always keep pushing. I think it was Damon John. I think he's the one who basically says, set a goal, achieve that goal, and set a new goal. You always have to keep on proceeding, and it's funny because I think it was Kevin from the association put on Facebook, it's okay to look back, but always keep moving forward. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah, I saw it. I loved it.
Yeah. So
shout out to Kevin. So
absolutely.
you just impressed a genius. So that makes you genius-ish. All right. So Brian, what do you want said about you, sir, when you are no longer here with us on Earth?
I mean, obviously I want my kids to remember me as a good person and did as much as he can. I just want to make a difference. I want to enjoy my life. I want to do something that will help people. it's hard to explain, whether it be making my mark and maybe write a book or something. And I don't know. But doing little things as much as I can, such as becoming the president of the Miami Realtors commercial board, joining other organizations that I am a part of and maybe moving up in those ranks and trying to make a difference with those. If I get into politics, I get into politics, and then, that'll go down in whatever history deems worthy. So I just want to help people and make a difference as much as I can.
Dude, I think you're too smart for the other politicians. So if you get in, they are going to be in trouble, especially if you tell them SOCKS.
There you go.
Oh my gosh, I got a new line. All right, sir. So it is now time for our lightning round, rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
I think so.
All right, your favorite cereal?
Special K with strawberries.
Oh my God, you're such a grown man. All right, if you could be any superhero, who would it be?
Superman.
Dream vacation spot?
Oh man. Right now I'm looking at in Utah, Antelope Canyon. It's
Antelope Canyon in Utah.
If you look it up, it's the most beautiful rock formations with light shining through crevices. It's like gorgeous. I want to go there with my camera and just go crazy.
Dude, you are such a freaking nerd. I love it. Favorite color?
Blue, but I am also kind of colorblind, so it's as blue as I choose.
You know what? I hope everyone who watches who thought they knew you realized they did not know anything about you, dude.
Now you're the first. You get to know it all.
See, I'm finding this out, and so since there'll be no edits, I do get the pleasure of watching this again before I upload it. All right, one talent that you wish you had that you don't have.
Does it have to be realistic, or could it be made up? Like
anything, man. Tell me a talent. It's your show.
Teleport.
You wish you could teleport.
Yeah, I can go anywhere I want in the world. I can get to Antelope Canyon right away. I'll be right there.
Favorite food?
Pizza.
Plain pizza, any specific type?
I like plain cheese pizza.
Oh, why am I not surprised? Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. Old school Bugs Bunny.
Apple pie or pumpkin pie?
Apple pie with ice cream on top.
Lil Wayne or Lil Dicky?
Lil Wayne. Dude,
why do you laugh?
Dicky? Come on, that's crazy. Who never Lil Dicky like that?
I have to ask them, like Lil Dicky, he's got fans.
2 years ago, I saw him live over on South Beach during, I think it was like an art battle, and I didn't even know who he was, and he blew my mind. It was great.
You see, so you're the Lil Dicky of my life. You just blew my mind. I don't know if that's a compliment or not. All right. Last but not least, your favorite book, sir?
Sheesh. The first real book, when I decided I wanted to read a real book, I picked it up. I'm like, this is too much. I'm not going to finish it, but I got to try it. And I did. Shogun. It's that book. And I was just talking to my son about it, the other day, of how it made me want to read more because of how it opened your mind and everything. That was the book that did that to me.
Fantastic job, sir. Mr. Brian Sharpe, Mr. All Everything, Mr. SOCKS, Mr. President of the 2018 Miami Commercial. Thank you for your time, dude. I really, really, really do appreciate it. You are one of my all-time favorite people because you are a man of action, but yet you are also personable. And just respectful, dude, man. Every time I see you, you put a smile on my face, and I'm hoping that when people watch this interview, they'll have the same reaction as I do.
Well, Neil, I really appreciate it, man. I don't know if I deserve all that, but thank you. I love whenever I see you. We always have a great time, so I'm happy to be here with you.
All right, sir. Thank you. Go have some fun. Go to Antelope Canyon?
Antelope Canyon. Look it up. You're going to be like, I got to go there now.
I'm going to look it up, but I'm very skeptical, right? So I'm going to have to wait until I see your photos, and then I'll say, all right, man, I might go now.
It'll happen.
All right, Brian, thank you for your time, man. Thank you for
You
joining
bet.
us here on the 2-6. Everyone, make sure that you check out Mr. Brian Sharpe on everything. You could type him in when you just start typing in BR, don't be surprised if Brian Sharpe pops up on your Google search, Bing, whatever it is, because he is known around the world. So you guys take care. Until next time, be world renowned.